Hey guys, tonight we're leaving behind the comfort of the modern world and stepping into one of the darkest centuries of medieval Europe. Forget the shining castles and noble feasts you've seen in movies. Tonight, you'll discover what life truly felt like for the ordinary people who had no choice but to survive another freezing day. Before we begin, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy peaceful history stories. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights, get comfortable, and let history slowly carry you away. You wake before the sun, not because you're rested, but because the bitter cold has crept through every crack in your tiny wooden cottage. The fire that kept your family alive through the night has long since turned into gray ash. Even breathing feels painful as the freezing air fills your lungs. Your blanket is rough, heavy, and damp from weeks of winter moisture. It offers little comfort. Beside you, your younger brother remains asleep, curled into the smallest shape possible, hoping his body can somehow create enough warmth to last until morning. The room is almost empty. A wooden stool. A cracked clay pot. A table that has been repaired more times than anyone remembers. And a single loaf of dark barley bread, so hard it could almost be mistaken for stone. That loaf must feed your entire family today. Outside, the village remains silent beneath a pale sky. Smoke rises from only a handful of chimneys. Most families have already burned every piece of dry wood they owned. Others simply sit together beneath blankets, waiting for daylight to bring just enough warmth to keep hope alive. Somewhere beyond the frozen fields, church bells begin to ring. Not as a celebration, but as another reminder that winter has claimed someone during the night. No one asks who it was anymore. Death has become as ordinary as sunrise. You quietly lace your worn leather boots, take one last look at your sleeping family, and push open the wooden door. A wall of icy wind greets you. Another day in the Middle Ages has begun. To be continued. The cold bites at your face the moment you step outside. Every breath becomes a cloud of white that disappears into the gray morning sky. Snow crunches beneath your worn boots as you make your way toward the frozen fields. Around you, the village slowly wakes. Doors creak open. Thin trails of smoke rise from a few chimneys lucky enough to have wood left to burn. No one speaks much. Words waste energy, and energy is precious during winter. An old woman kneels beside the village well, striking the thick layer of ice with an iron rod. It takes several heavy blows before the frozen surface finally cracks. The water beneath is painfully cold, but without it, no family will survive the day. You continue toward the fields, though everyone already knows there is nothing left to harvest. The wheat disappeared months ago. The vegetables have long since frozen beneath the hard earth. Only empty stalks sway in the bitter wind, reminding everyone that spring is still far away. A pair of crows circles overhead. People quietly believe the birds follow death. Whether that is true or not, no one dares chase them away. As the sun finally rises above the distant hills, it brings light but almost no warmth. Its pale glow stretches across the snow-covered valley, revealing abandoned cottages whose owners never lived to see another winter. The village priest walks slowly between the houses carrying a small wooden cross. He stops at one door, bows his head, and whispers a prayer. No one needs to ask why. Another family has lost someone during the night. You lower your eyes and keep walking. In these dark years, grief has become as common as hunger, and hope feels more fragile than the thin layer of ice beneath your feet. The day has only just begun. Part 3. The path leading away from the village disappears beneath a blanket of untouched snow. Every step demands effort as your boots sink into the frozen ground. The wind whistles through the leafless trees, carrying tiny flakes of ice that sting your cheeks like needles. Winter has a way of making even the shortest journey feel endless. Ahead, a small group of villagers walks in silence. An old farmer pulls an empty cart behind him, though everyone knows there is little left to gather. The forests have already been searched for fallen branches, wild berries, and edible roots. Even the rabbits seem to have vanished into the cold earth. By midday, hunger begins to settle like a heavy stone inside your stomach. You reach into your pocket and find the last piece of yesterday's barley bread. It is dry, hard, and nearly impossible to bite. Still, you eat it slowly, making each tiny mouthful last as long as possible. Near the edge of the forest, you notice fresh footprints. Not human. Wolf tracks. Several of them. They circle the nearby trees before disappearing into the darkness beyond. You instinctively tighten your grip on the small wood-cutting axe hanging from your belt. It would do little against a hungry pack, but carrying nothing at all would feel even worse. Far across the valley, smoke suddenly rises into the gray sky. At first, you think someone has finally managed to light a fire. Then you notice the flames. A lonely farmhouse burns in the distance while tiny figures rush helplessly through the snow. No bells ring. No soldiers come. In these harsh times, every family is left to face disaster alone. You stand silently for a moment before turning back toward the village. The cold is no longer the only thing waiting for you. By the time you return to the village, the smell of smoke hangs heavily in the freezing air. The farmhouse you saw burning belongs to a family everyone knows. Neighbors gather in silence, passing buckets of icy water from hand to hand, though the flames have already consumed most of the roof. The fire offers warmth for the first time in days, but no one dares stand close enough to enjoy it. A woman kneels in the snow, clutching two frightened children against her chest. Her husband stares at the blackened remains of the house without speaking. Years of work have disappeared in a single morning. In the Middle Ages, rebuilding is not a matter of weeks. For many, it never happens at all. The village elder finally breaks the silence. Every family must donate something: wood, bread, blankets, or labor. No one has enough to spare, yet everyone understands the same terrible truth. Today it is their house. Tomorrow it could be yours. As evening approaches, dark clouds swallow the fading sunlight. The temperature drops even further. Icicles cling to every roof, and the narrow paths begin to freeze into sheets of glass. Your fingers ache despite the worn leather gloves wrapped around them. Inside your cottage, your mother carefully divides a thin pot of cabbage broth into 4 wooden bowls. Each serving is smaller than yesterday's. No one complains. Complaints cannot fill an empty stomach. During supper, a loud knock echoes through the village. 3 mounted riders appear at the entrance, their horses covered in frost. The iron crest on their shields belongs to the local lord. Tax collectors. They have arrived weeks earlier than expected. A nervous whisper spreads from house to house. Families hide what little grain they have left beneath floorboards, inside empty barrels, and beneath loose stones near the fireplace. Everyone knows the collectors rarely leave empty-handed. And they never accept excuses. Before sunrise, the village square is already crowded. Frost clings to every roof, and a bitter wind sweeps through the narrow streets, carrying with it the sound of restless horses. The tax collectors wait patiently beside the old stone well, dressed in thick wool cloaks trimmed with fur. Their polished helmets catch the first pale light of morning, making them appear far wealthier than anyone gathered before them. One by one, families are ordered forward. A widow offers 2 small sacks of barley. The chief collector weighs them in his hands before shaking his head. It is not enough. Without another word, his men enter her cottage and return carrying her only milk goat. The animal cries as it is dragged away. The widow falls to her knees, but no one dares speak on her behalf. Your turn comes sooner than expected. Your father places a worn leather pouch onto the wooden table. Inside are a handful of copper coins saved over many months and the last measure of dried grain your family owns. The collector barely glances at them before demanding more. There must be another payment, he says coldly. There isn't, your father replies. For a long moment, neither man moves. Then one of the soldiers steps toward your family's small handcart, the same cart used every harvest season for as long as anyone can remember. Without hesitation, he unties the rope and leads it away. Your father clenches his fists but lowers his eyes. Everyone understands the price of resisting. A beating, imprisonment, or worse. As the riders leave the village, silence settles over the square once again. The snow is marked by deep wagon tracks leading toward the Lord's distant castle, carrying away food, tools, and the last pieces of hope from families who already had almost nothing left. Winter suddenly feels much longer than it did yesterday. Part 6. The days following the tax collector's visit feel strangely quiet. Not peaceful, just empty. The village has lost more than grain and tools. It has lost its spirit. People no longer gather to talk beside the well. Doors remain closed long after sunrise, and even the children have stopped playing in the snow. Without the handcart, every task becomes harder. You and your father now carry firewood on your backs, making trip after exhausting trip into the forest. The trees stand bare beneath a sky the color of dull iron. Their branches creak in the wind like the timbers of an old ship lost at sea. Deep among the pines, you discover fresh axe marks on several trunks. Someone else has been here. That is unusual. The Lord's foresters rarely allow strangers to cut wood without permission. Anyone caught stealing timber risks losing a hand, or worse. Your father kneels beside the tracks pressed into the snow. Too many footprints, he whispers. There are at least 6 different sets, all leading farther into the forest. Curiosity battles caution. Against better judgment, you follow them. The forest grows darker with every step. Sunlight barely reaches the frozen ground beneath the towering pines. The silence becomes so complete that even your own breathing sounds too loud. Then you hear it. The faint crackle of a fire. You slowly move between the trees until a small clearing comes into view. A group of strangers sits around a hidden campfire. Their cloaks are patched and weathered. One sharpens a hunting knife while another stirs a pot hanging over the flames. A horse grazes nearby, its saddle loaded with bundles wrapped in rough cloth. They are not soldiers. They are not merchants. And they are certainly not villagers. One of them suddenly lifts his head. His eyes meet yours. For a heartbeat, neither of you moves. Then the man slowly rises to his feet. The stranger studies you without a word. His beard is streaked with gray, and a long scar runs from his temple to the corner of his jaw. He does not reach for his knife, but neither does he smile. You've wandered farther than most villagers dare, he says quietly. Your father steps beside you before answering. We're only gathering firewood. The man glances at the small bundle of branches on your back, then toward the empty forest behind you. For a moment, the only sound is the fire popping beneath the iron pot. Finally, he nods. Then gather your wood and forget you ever saw us. The warning is calm, almost polite. As you turn to leave, another traveler approaches the fire leading a tired mule loaded with sacks. A corner of one sack tears open as he sets it down, spilling a handful of grain onto the snow. Real grain. More food than many families in your village have seen in weeks. Your stomach tightens. The older man notices your eyes lingering on the scattered kernels. Without saying anything, he scoops up a small wooden cup, fills it with oats, and places it on a nearby stump. For your family, he says. You hesitate. Nothing in these difficult years is ever given freely. There is no price. He lets out a weary laugh. The price is simple. He stirs the fire with a stick before looking directly at you. If anyone asks, this clearing was empty. Your father slowly picks up the cup of grain. I understand. The strangers return to their quiet conversation as though you were never there. The journey back to the village feels different. The forest no longer seems empty. Somewhere beneath its endless pines, people are hiding from a world that has become just as dangerous as the winter itself. That evening, The small cup of oats becomes the finest meal your family has shared in months. Your mother grinds the grain with slow, careful movements, mixing it into the last of the barley flour. The loaf that comes from the oven is still small, but its warm smell fills the cottage with something almost forgotten. Hope. No one asks where the grain came from. In difficult times, some questions are better left unanswered. The next morning, thick fog blankets the valley. The church bell rings once, then falls silent. You shoulder your bundle of ropes and walk toward the river to check the fishing traps, though winter has left little alive beneath the frozen water. The river moves slowly beneath a crust of ice. You kneel beside one of the traps and pull it from the water. Empty. The second trap holds only frozen weeds. The third has disappeared entirely, its rope cut clean with a sharp blade. Someone else is hungry enough to steal. As you search along the riverbank, you notice footprints leading toward an abandoned stone bridge. The bridge was damaged years ago during a flood and has been avoided ever since. Moss covers its broken stones, and half of its arch has collapsed into the icy current below. Something catches your eye. Fresh horse tracks. They vanish beneath the bridge. Curious, you climb down the slippery bank. Hidden beneath the broken arch sits a wooden chest wrapped in oilcloth to protect it from the snow. It is locked with thick iron bands, yet the lid bears no noble crest, no merchant's mark, and no church seal. Before you can move closer, distant voices echo across the river. Several men are approaching. You quickly step behind the fallen stones, holding your breath as the sound of boots grows louder with every passing second. You remain perfectly still behind the broken stones, barely daring to breathe. The voices grow louder until 3 men appear through the fog. Each wears a heavy wool cloak, their faces hidden beneath deep hoods. One carries a lantern, its pale light dancing across the frozen ground despite the daylight. The tallest man kneels beside the wooden chest and unlocks it with a small iron key hanging from his neck. The lid creaks open. Inside are dozens of tightly wrapped bundles. Not gold. Not jewels. Food. Smoked meat, dried beans, sacks of grain, and several round wheels of hard cheese. Enough to feed your entire village for weeks. The shortest man shakes his head. "We can't stay here much longer," he mutters. "The Lord's patrols are searching every road." Another nods toward the valley. "Tonight we move everything to the old monastery." The monastery. You haven't heard anyone speak that name in years. It stands abandoned on a lonely hill beyond the Black Forest. People claim the monks disappeared after a terrible sickness swept through the valley. Since then, no villager willingly goes near its weathered stone walls. The tallest man closes the chest. "We'll return after sunset." The 3 men disappear into the fog as quietly as they arrived. You wait several long minutes before stepping from your hiding place. The chest remains hidden beneath the bridge. Your heart races. A single thought fills your mind. If this food truly belongs to the strangers in the forest, they are risking everything to keep it away from the Lord's soldiers. But why? You carefully memorize the path before making your way back toward the village. As the fog begins to lift, the abandoned monastery appears for just a brief moment on the distant hillside. Its broken bell tower rises above the trees like a silent warning. For the first time in many years, you know exactly where you're going tomorrow. The next morning arrives beneath a sky of dull gray clouds. Snow falls gently, covering yesterday's footprints as though the world wishes to erase every secret hidden beneath it. You tell your family that you're gathering firewood again. No one questions you. Winter has taught everyone to accept simple answers. The path toward the old monastery has almost disappeared beneath years of neglect. Thorn bushes claw at your cloak while twisted branches block the narrow trail. Few people have walked this road in a long time. As you climb the hillside, the monastery slowly emerges through the mist. Its stone walls still stand, though time has worn away much of their strength. The wooden gates hang crooked from rusted hinges. Broken stained glass lies scattered beneath empty windows, and ivy wraps itself around the ancient bell tower like silent hands reclaiming forgotten history. You step cautiously through the open gate. The courtyard is silent. No birds sing. No wind stirs. Only the soft crunch of snow beneath your boots breaks the stillness. Inside the chapel, rows of cracked wooden benches face a weathered stone altar. Faded paintings of saints barely remain on the walls, their faces almost erased by centuries of smoke and damp air. Then you notice something strange. Fresh footprints. Someone has been here today. They lead behind the altar toward a section of the stone floor that seems slightly raised. You kneel beside it and brush away the thin layer of dust. A narrow iron ring. Hidden in the floor. Your pulse quickens. You pull carefully. With a deep grinding sound, the heavy stone slab shifts aside, revealing a staircase descending into complete darkness. Cold air rises from below. It carries the faint smell of burning candles. Someone is down there. You stand motionless at the top of the stairs, listening. Then, a distant voice echoes through the underground passage. Not one voice. Several. And they are coming closer. You freeze where you stand, one hand still gripping the iron ring. The candlelight below flickers against the damp stone walls, sending strange shadows dancing across the narrow staircase. The voices grow louder, but the words remain impossible to understand. Instinct tells you to leave. Curiosity refuses. Slowly, you descend. Each step groans beneath your weight, though the ancient stone somehow holds. The air grows colder with every step downward, carrying the scent of old earth, melted wax, and smoke. At the bottom, the passage opens into a vaulted chamber supported by thick stone pillars. Dozens of candles burn along the walls, filling the underground hall with a soft golden glow. Wooden shelves line the room. Not with treasure. With food. Barrels of salted fish. Stacks of grain. Bundles of dried herbs. Clay jars filled with honey. Everything carefully arranged as though someone intended to preserve it for months. Hidden beneath the monastery lies enough food to save hundreds of lives. Before you can take another step, laughter echoes from the far end of the chamber. You quickly slip behind one of the pillars. 4 people enter the room carrying fresh supplies. Among them is the gray-bearded stranger from the forest. He removes his cloak and spreads a hand-drawn map across a heavy oak table. "We've supplied 6 villages already," he says quietly. "But the Lord's men are searching every road." Another traveler points toward the map. "Tonight we move north. The children there haven't eaten properly in days. No one speaks of profit. No one mentions payment. They are risking everything simply to keep strangers alive." For the first time, you realize these hidden travelers are not thieves. They are rescuers. Outside, the cruel winter belongs to the Lord. But beneath the monastery, another world exists. One built on quiet courage instead of fear. No one notices you hiding behind the pillar. The group gathers around the old oak table, speaking in calm voices as snow taps softly against the narrow windows high above. The gray-bearded man traces several routes across the map with his finger. "The southern road is no longer safe," he says. "The Lord has doubled his patrols." A young woman dressed in a faded brown cloak nods. "Then we'll travel through the forest after midnight." Another man quietly places a leather pouch onto the table. The sound of coins echoes through the chamber. "Someone in the western village sold the last of their silver," he explains. "They insisted we take it." The old man gently pushes the pouch back. "They'll need those coins before spring." No one argues. Instead, the pouch is set aside, untouched. You watch in silence, realizing these people live by rules completely different from the world above. They take only what is freely given and leave far more than they receive. Suddenly, Hurried footsteps echo from the staircase. A young messenger rushes into the chamber, breathing heavily. Horsemen, he gasps. At least 20. Every conversation stops. The Lord's soldiers. The messenger nods. They're searching every abandoned building. They'll reach the monastery before sunset. Within seconds, the peaceful chamber bursts into quiet activity. Candles are extinguished. Maps disappear into wooden chests. Barrels are covered with heavy cloth, and hidden doors slide open behind the stone walls. No one panics. Everyone already knows exactly what to do. The gray-bearded man gives one final order. If they find this place, no one fights. The room falls silent. You suddenly understand why. Against trained soldiers, courage alone will never be enough. Hidden behind the pillar, your heartbeat quickens. The sound of horses is already drifting through the snowy valley outside. The sound of horses grows louder with every passing moment. From the narrow window near the chapel roof, you catch your first glimpse of them. Nearly 20 mounted soldiers ride through the falling snow, their banners snapping in the bitter wind. The crest of the local lord is impossible to mistake. The monastery has only minutes. Below, the hidden chamber remains astonishingly calm. The gray-bearded leader closes the last wooden chest and turns to the others. Everyone knows their path. No speeches. No panic. Only quiet determination. Within moments, several stone panels slide aside, revealing narrow tunnels leading deeper beneath the monastery. Others carry sacks of grain through hidden passages so well concealed that you would never have noticed them. The chamber that moments ago held enough food to save entire villages slowly becomes empty. A young boy accidentally drops a clay jar. It shatters against the floor. Every head turns. Silence. The old man kneels beside the frightened child. It's only a jar, he whispers with a gentle smile. You're safe. His calm voice settles everyone's nerves. Then, a heavy bang echoes through the monastery above. The front gate. Another crash follows. The soldiers have arrived. Dust drifts from the stone ceiling. You hear muffled voices shouting orders, followed by the sound of armored boots spreading through the empty halls overhead. One soldier laughs. Another kicks open an old wooden door. The search has begun. The gray-bearded man looks toward the staircase leading to the chapel. If they find the entrance, he says quietly, this place dies with us. No one answers. No one needs to. You tighten your grip on the small axe hanging from your belt, though deep inside you know it would be useless against trained men in steel armor. Above your head, footsteps stop. Someone is standing directly over the hidden stone door. Then comes the slow scrape of metal against stone. As if Part 14. The scraping sound stops. For one long, unbearable moment, no one beneath the monastery dares to breathe. Tiny grains of dust drift from the ceiling as heavy boots shift across the stone floor above. A soldier mutters something. Another replies with a laugh. Then, the footsteps move away. Not because the hidden door was convincing, but because they had found something else. A loud crash echoes through the chapel. Wood splinters. Stone rolls across the floor. The soldiers are tearing the monastery apart, searching every room for signs of life. Below, the gray-bearded man quietly exhales. Not yet, he whispers. No one celebrates. The danger has only changed shape. Minutes later, another scout slips through one of the hidden tunnels. Snow clings to his cloak, already melting onto the stone floor. They've surrounded the hill, he says softly. No one leaves unnoticed. Silence fills the chamber. Every escape route now leads straight into armed men. The old leader studies the map one last time before folding it carefully. There is one passage they don't know about. He lifts a weathered torch from the wall and walks toward the oldest corner of the chamber, where an enormous stone cross has stood for centuries. Placing both hands against it, he pushes. At first, nothing happens. Then the cross slowly turns. A deep rumble rolls through the underground hall as part of the wall slides sideways, revealing a narrow tunnel disappearing into complete darkness. Cold air rushes from within. The passage is ancient. Its stone walls are rough, untouched for generations. The scout raises his lantern. "I've never seen this open." The old man smiles faintly. "Very few have." One by one, everyone gathers their supplies in silence. No voices. No panic. Only the steady determination of people who have survived impossible winters before. Without another word, the gray-bearded man steps into the darkness. The hidden tunnel quietly swallows. The tunnel stretches deeper beneath the mountain than anyone expected. The air grows colder with every step, and the sound of their footsteps disappears into the endless darkness ahead. Behind them, the hidden entrance slowly closes. The stone cross returns to its original position, sealing away the secret passage once again. For a moment, the group stands completely still. They know there is no turning back. The young scout raises his lantern higher, revealing ancient markings carved into the walls. Symbols from a forgotten age cover the stone, telling stories of those who walked this path long before them. The old gray-bearded leader runs his fingers across one of the carvings. "This passage was built when this land was still young," he says quietly. "Kings have forgotten it. Armies have searched for it. But it has always remained hidden." A young man walking behind him looks back toward the sealed entrance. What if they find the way in? The old leader continues walking. Then we will already be somewhere they cannot reach. Above them, the soldiers continue their search. They break doors. They overturn tables. They search every corner of the monastery. But they never discover what lies beneath their feet. Hours pass underground. The travelers move slowly through the ancient tunnel, carrying only what they can hold. Their supplies are limited. Their bodies are tired. But their hope remains alive. Suddenly, the scout at the front raises his hand. Everyone stops. Ahead of them comes a sound. Water. A hidden underground river flows somewhere beyond the darkness. The group moves closer, and soon they see a narrow stream cutting through the stone floor. The water is clear and untouched. The old leader kneels and touches it. "This river will guide us." The others look confused. "Where does it lead?" The old man looks into the darkness ahead. "To the valley beyond the mountain." A silence follows. The valley. The place where no enemy patrols are expected. The place where they might finally find safety. But before they can continue, a sudden echo travels through the tunnel behind them. A sound that does not belong to them. Footsteps. The group freezes. The lantern flames shake as everyone turns toward the darkness behind them. The old leader slowly reaches for the small blade hidden beneath his cloak. The footsteps grow louder. Closer. Closer. Until a shadow appears at the far end of the tunnel. Someone has followed them. The shadow at the end of the tunnel does not move. Everyone freezes. No one knows if the person behind them is a friend or an enemy. The old leader raises his hand, ordering everyone to stay silent. The lanterns are covered, and the group hides beside the cold stone walls. The footsteps slowly come closer. A figure appears from the darkness. It is a monk from the monastery. The young scout steps forward. "Brother Elias." The monk removes his hood. His face is covered with snow and exhaustion. "I escaped just in time," he whispers. The old leader looks at him carefully. "What happened?" Elias takes a deep breath. "They discovered the hidden rooms. They know someone was hiding beneath the monastery." Everyone becomes silent. They are searching every corner, Elias continues. The soldiers have surrounded the entire mountain. No one can leave without being seen. The old leader looks toward the dark tunnel ahead. Then we must move faster. The group gathers their remaining supplies and continues walking. The underground river flows beside them, guiding their path through the ancient passage. Hours pass. The tunnel slowly begins to change. The walls become wider, and the old carvings disappear. The cold stone is replaced by natural rock shaped by centuries of water and ice. Suddenly, the scout stops. Everyone looks ahead. A faint light shines in the distance. It is not from a lantern. It is natural light. The first light they have seen after escaping into the darkness. They move closer carefully. At the end of the tunnel, a small opening appears in the mountain wall. Beyond it is a frozen valley covered with endless snow. For a moment, everyone forgets their fear. They may have finally found a way out. But then the scout notices something. Far across the valley, a thin line of smoke rises into the sky. Someone is there. Someone who may know they are coming. Part 17. The group remains hidden near the opening of the tunnel. Nobody speaks. The smoke rising from the valley could mean safety. But it could also mean danger. The old leader watches the distant fire carefully. Smoke means someone is living there, he says quietly. But we do not know who. The scout looks across the frozen landscape. We cannot stay here forever. The soldiers may discover the tunnel. The old man nods. We move carefully. No fires. No loud voices. Leave no signs behind. One by one, they step out of the mountain. The cold wind strikes their faces immediately. After spending so long underground, the open air feels almost unreal. Snow covers everything. The trees stand frozen and silent. The valley looks empty. But the smoke continues rising. They travel slowly, using the mountains and trees as cover. Every few steps, the scout stops and studies the ground. Then suddenly, he kneels. Tracks. Everyone gathers around him. Fresh footprints are pressed into the snow. The old leader studies them. How many? The scout touches the marks. Only one person. But they came this way recently. The group becomes alert. Someone had walked through this valley before them. The old leader signals everyone to continue. As they move closer to the smoke, they see a small wooden cabin hidden between the trees. The cabin looks old, almost forgotten. Smoke rises from its chimney. A small light glows through the window. The group stops at a distance. The old leader steps forward alone. He walks slowly toward the cabin and knocks on the wooden door. For several seconds, nothing happens. Then, the door opens slightly. An old voice speaks from inside. Who walks through these mountains during the dead of winter? The gray-bearded leader looks at the person standing in the doorway. His expression changes. He recognizes him. After many years, an old friend has returned. The old man standing in the doorway looks at the gray-bearded leader in silence. For a moment, neither of them speaks. The years between them seem to disappear. Is it really you? The old man finally whispers. The leader lowers his head. Yes, my friend. The old man steps forward and embraces him. The others watch quietly, confused by the unexpected reunion. Inside the small cabin, a warm fire burns in the corner. The exhausted travelers enter one by one, feeling the warmth return to their frozen hands. The cabin owner gives them food and water without asking many questions. After everyone settles, the old friend looks at the leader. I heard rumors about what happened at the monastery. The leader looks down. Then you know why we are here. The old man nods slowly. For years, I wondered if this day would come. The young scout looks surprised. You knew this place existed? The old man smiles faintly. This cabin was never just a home. It was built to protect those who needed to disappear. The room becomes silent. Outside, the wind grows stronger. Snow begins covering their tracks. The old leader looks toward the window. The soldiers will search the mountain. They may eventually find the tunnel. His old friend shakes his head. They will not find this valley easily. These mountains hide many secrets. For the first time in days, the group feels a small moment of peace. But the peace does not last long. Suddenly, a loud crack echoes outside. Everyone turns toward the window. The scout quickly moves closer. In the distance, beyond the trees, a small light moves through the snow. A torch. Then another. And another. The old man's face becomes serious. They found the trail. The fire inside the cabin suddenly feels colder. The enemy is closer than anyone expected. Part 19. The lights in the distance move slowly through the snow. The soldiers are coming. Everyone inside the cabin becomes silent. The old friend closes the wooden door and covers the windows with thick cloth. We cannot fight them here, he whispers. The old leader looks around the small room. How long until they reach us? The old man listens to the wind outside. Not long. The group quickly gathers their supplies. The peaceful moment they had found is gone. The young scout looks worried. There is nowhere to run. The old cabin owner walks toward the back wall and removes an old wooden shelf. Behind it is another hidden passage. The travelers stare in surprise. Another secret tunnel? The scout asks. The old man nods. This valley has protected many people over the years. The gray-bearded leader smiles slightly. You always had a way out. The old man looks at him. Because I always knew one day I might need it. Outside, voices begin to echo through the trees. The soldiers are close. Snow falls harder, covering the ground and hiding the entrance. One by one, the group enters the hidden passage. Before leaving, the old cabin owner looks back at his home. A place that had protected him for many years. He knows he may never return. A loud knock suddenly hits the cabin door. Everyone freezes. Another knock. Stronger this time. The old man steps into the passage and closes the hidden entrance. Above them, the soldiers enter the cabin. They search every corner. They find the warm fire. They find the food. But they find no people. The leader of the soldiers looks around angrily. Search outside. The order is given. The hunt continues. Meanwhile, deep beneath the snow-covered valley, the group moves through another forgotten path. But they do not know. Someone else is already waiting ahead. The hidden passage becomes darker with every step. The group moves slowly, carrying only small lanterns to guide their way. Behind them, the sound of the soldiers searching the cabin slowly disappears. But no one feels safe yet. The old cabin owner walks at the front, knowing every turn of the ancient tunnel. This path was created long before the monastery, he explains quietly. Few people know it exists. The young scout looks at the rough stone walls. Where does it lead? The old man pauses for a moment. To the other side of the mountain. Everyone becomes hopeful. The other side of the mountain could mean freedom. But after walking for a long time, the tunnel begins to narrow. The air becomes colder. Then suddenly, the old man stops. The group nearly walks into him. What happened? The leader asks. The old man points ahead. A large wooden door blocks the passage. It is covered with strange symbols and old marks. The gray-bearded leader steps closer and studies it. This door has not been opened for many years. The scout looks concerned. Can it be opened? The old man reaches toward the ancient lock. I don't know. He tries to turn it. Nothing happens. Again. Still nothing. Everyone waits in silence. Then the old leader notices something carved into the stone beside the door. A message. Written by those who built the tunnel. He slowly reads the ancient words. Only those who carry no fear may pass beyond this place. The group looks at each other. The old man takes a deep breath and places his hand on the door. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, a deep sound echoes through the tunnel. The ancient door begins to open. Cold air rushes from the darkness beyond. But as the doorway widens, they see something unexpected. On the other side, there are fresh footprints in the snow. Part 19. The lights in the distance move slowly through the snow. The soldiers are coming. Everyone inside the cabin becomes silent. The old friend closes the wooden door and covers the windows with thick cloth. We cannot fight them here, he whispers. The old leader looks around the small room. How long until they reach us? The old man listens to the wind outside. Not long. The group quickly gathers their supplies. The peaceful moment they had found is gone. The young scout looks worried. There is nowhere to run. The old cabin owner walks toward the back wall and removes an old wooden shelf. Behind it is another hidden passage. The travelers stare in surprise. Another secret tunnel? The scout asks. The old man nods. This valley has protected many people over the years. The gray-bearded leader smiles slightly. You always had a way out. The old man looks at him. Because I always knew one day I might need it. Outside, voices begin to echo through the trees. The soldiers are close. Snow falls harder, covering the ground and hiding the entrance. One by one, the group enters the hidden passage. Before leaving, the old cabin owner looks back at his home. A place that had protected him for many years. He knows he may never return. A loud knock suddenly hits the cabin door. Everyone freezes. Another knock. Stronger this time. The old man steps into the passage and closes the hidden entrance. Above them, the soldiers enter the cabin. They search every corner. They find the warm fire. They find the food. But they find no people. The leader of the soldiers looks around angrily. Search outside. The order is given. The hunt continues. Meanwhile, deep beneath the snow-covered valley, the group moves through another forgotten path. But they do not know. Someone else is already waiting ahead. The hidden passage becomes darker with every step. The group moves slowly, carrying only small lanterns to guide their way. Behind them, the sound of the soldiers searching the cabin slowly disappears. But no one feels safe yet. The old cabin owner walks at the front, knowing every turn of the ancient tunnel. This path was created long before the monastery, he explains quietly. Few people know it exists. The young scout looks at the rough stone walls. Where does it lead? The old man pauses for a moment. To the other side of the mountain. Everyone becomes hopeful. The other side of the mountain could mean freedom. But after walking for a long time, the tunnel begins to narrow. The air becomes colder. Then suddenly, the old man stops. The group nearly walks into him. What happened? The leader asks. The old man points ahead. A large wooden door blocks the passage. It is covered with strange symbols and old marks. The gray-bearded leader steps closer and studies it. This door has not been opened for many years. The scout looks concerned. Can it be opened? The old man reaches toward the ancient lock. I don't know. He tries to turn it. Nothing happens. Again. Still nothing. Everyone waits in silence. Then the old leader notices something carved into the stone beside the door. A message. Written by those who built the tunnel. He slowly reads the ancient words. Only those who carry no fear may pass beyond this place. The group looks at each other. The old man takes a deep breath and places his hand on the door. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, a deep sound echoes through the tunnel. The ancient door begins to open. Cold air rushes from the darkness beyond. But as the doorway widens, they see something unexpected. On the other side, there are fresh footprints in the snow. The fresh footprints continue into the darkness beyond the ancient door. Everyone stands frozen. The tunnel was supposed to be forgotten. No one should have been here for years. The young scout quietly draws his weapon. Someone came through this way recently. The old cabin owner studies the tracks carefully. His face becomes serious. These are not old. The gray-bearded leader looks ahead. Then we are not alone. The group enters the passage slowly. Beyond the door is a hidden mountain path covered with snow. The walls are no longer made of stone. Instead, they open into a narrow valley surrounded by towering cliffs. The cold wind blows through the passage. Every sound feels louder. The travelers follow the footprints carefully. After some distance, they discover something lying in the snow. A small piece of cloth. The scout picks it up and examines it. It belongs to someone from the soldiers. Everyone becomes alert. The enemy may have found this path too. The old leader looks back toward the mountain. They are closer than we thought. Suddenly, a faint sound travels across the valley. A whistle. Not from the wind. A signal. The group quickly hides behind the rocks. Moments later, figures appear on the far side of the valley. They are carrying torches. The soldiers have reached the hidden path. The old cabin owner whispers. They must have discovered the entrance. The gray-bearded leader looks at the people beside him. They have escaped the monastery. They survived the tunnels. They crossed the frozen valley. But now their greatest danger has followed them. The old leader points toward a narrow path between the cliffs. We move now. The group begins climbing through the snow-covered rocks. Behind them, the soldiers enter the valley. The chase has begun again. But this time, there is nowhere left to hide. The group climbs higher into the mountains, moving as quietly as possible. The snow reaches their knees, slowing every step. The wind becomes stronger, covering their tracks and hiding their movement. Behind them, the soldiers spread across the valley, searching every direction. The young scout looks back and sees the torchlights moving closer. They are gaining on us. The old leader does not stop. Then we must reach the upper ridge before they do. The narrow path becomes more dangerous. One mistake could send someone falling into the deep valley below. The old cabin owner leads them through the frozen rocks, remembering every hidden turn. After a difficult climb, they finally reach a small opening between two cliffs. Inside is a sheltered cave. Everyone enters quickly. The cave is dark and silent. For a moment, they allow themselves to rest. But the old leader notices something unusual. There are ashes near the entrance. A fire was burned here recently. Someone else had been using this cave. The scout searches the area carefully. They were here. The old cabin owner looks worried. Whoever it was, they knew about this path. Suddenly, a sound comes from deeper inside the cave. A small movement. Everyone turns. A figure steps out from the darkness. An injured man wearing a torn soldier's uniform. The group prepares for danger. But the man raises his hands. Wait. His voice is weak. I am not your enemy. The old leader studies him carefully. Then who are you? The wounded man looks at them with tired eyes. I know why they are chasing you. Silence fills the cave. The man takes a slow breath. And I know what they are really looking for. The narrow passage behind the cave is barely wide enough for one person. The group enters slowly, leaving the sound of approaching soldiers behind them. Marcus walks with difficulty, using the stone walls for support. The young scout stays close to him. You said they fear this place. Why? Marcus remains silent for a moment. Then he answers. Because this mountain holds the oldest secret of the kingdom. The old leader looks back at him. You have seen it? Marcus nods. Once. The passage becomes colder. The walls are covered with strange symbols, similar to those found beneath the monastery. After walking for a long time, they reach a massive stone chamber. In the center stands an ancient stone table. On top of it lies a sealed wooden box. Everyone stops. The old leader slowly approaches. This is what they are searching for. Marcus nods. The record. The old man looks at the box carefully. For centuries, people protected this. The young scout asks. What is written inside? Marcus looks serious. Everything they tried to erase. Before anyone can open the box, a loud sound echoes through the passage behind them. Footsteps. The soldiers have entered the cave. The group has only moments left. The old leader places his hand on the box. Some truths are worth protecting. He opens the ancient lock. Inside lies a collection of old pages wrapped in cloth. But among the pages is something unexpected. A symbol. The same symbol that appears on the walls of the hidden tunnels. Marcus looks at it and becomes pale. No. The old leader turns toward him. What is it? Marcus whispers. This was never just a secret. He looks toward the entrance where the footsteps are getting closer. This was a warning. Part 25. The sound of footsteps grows louder. The soldiers are almost inside the chamber. The old leader quickly wraps the ancient pages and places them inside his cloak. The young scout looks at Marcus. What warning are you talking about? Marcus stares at the symbol on the stone table. That mark does not belong to a family or a kingdom. He pauses. It belongs to those who came before all of them. The group listens carefully. Long ago, this place was built to protect people from a great mistake, Marcus explains. The rulers promised never to use what was hidden here. The old leader looks at the ancient pages. And they broke that promise. Marcus nods. They tried to control the knowledge inside these records. Suddenly, a loud echoes from the tunnel entrance. The soldiers are breaking through. There is no more time. The old leader looks around the chamber. Is there another way out? Marcus points toward the far wall. There is one last passage. The group runs toward it. Behind them, the stone entrance begins to crack. The first soldier appears through the opening. Stop. The old leader pushes against the hidden mechanism on the wall. Nothing happens. The soldiers move closer. Again, he pushes. Then the ancient stones begin to move. A hidden door slowly opens. Cold air rushes from the darkness beyond. Everyone enters quickly. Marcus is the last one to leave. Before the door closes, he looks back at the soldiers. For the first time, he does not look afraid. The stone wall seals shut. The soldiers are left behind. But the group knows they are not safe yet. The hidden passage leads deeper into the mountain. And according to the ancient warning, something is waiting ahead. Part 26. The hidden passage grows darker as the group moves deeper into the mountain. No one speaks. Everyone is thinking about the ancient warning. The old leader carefully holds the wrapped pages close to him. These records could change everything. Marcus walks beside him, still troubled by what he knows. The warning was written for a reason, Marcus says quietly. The old leader looks at him. What happens if the wrong people find these pages? Marcus looks ahead into the darkness. Then the same mistake that destroyed kingdoms before could happen again. The words create a heavy silence. After a long walk, the passage opens into a huge underground chamber. Everyone stops. The walls are covered with hundreds of ancient writings. At the center of the chamber stands a large stone monument. The young scout raises his lantern. This place is older than the monastery. The old leader slowly approaches the monument. Carved into the stone are names. Thousands of names. People who protected the secret throughout history. Marcus notices something unusual. A new mark. A mark that should not be there. The soldiers were here before us. Everyone turns toward him. Marcus points at the fresh scratches on the stone. They have been searching this place for a long time. The old leader looks worried. Then they know more than we thought. Suddenly, a small sound echoes from the other side of the chamber. A stone moving. Everyone freezes. A hidden door begins to open. Cold air flows into the room. From the darkness beyond the door, a voice speaks. You took too long to return. The group stands completely still. Someone was waiting for them. The voice echoes through the ancient chamber. No one moves. The old leader raises his lantern toward the hidden doorway. A figure slowly steps out of the darkness. It is an old woman wearing a long, worn cloak. Her face shows years of survival in the mountains. The group watches her carefully. The old leader lowers his weapon slightly. Who are you? The woman looks at the ancient pages in his hands. I am the last person who remembers why this place was created. Everyone becomes silent. Marcus looks shocked. You were supposed to be gone. The woman looks at him. Many believe that. She walks toward the stone monument. For years, I waited for someone to return with the records. The young scout asks. How did you know we would come? The woman touches the ancient carvings. Because the mountain chooses its own protectors. The old leader studies her. You know what is written inside these pages? The woman nods. I know every word. She looks toward the tunnel behind them. But we do not have much time. A distant sound begins to echo. Footsteps. The soldiers have found another way inside. The woman quickly turns. They followed you here. The group prepares themselves. The old leader asks. Is there another escape? The woman looks toward the deepest part of the chamber. There is one final path. She points toward a massive stone gate covered with ancient symbols. But opening it requires something you may not be willing to give. The old leader looks at the gate. What does it require? The woman looks directly at him. A sacrifice. The word hangs in the air. A sacrifice. Everyone looks at the old woman. The young scout steps forward. What kind of sacrifice? The woman does not answer immediately. Instead, she walks toward the ancient stone gate and places her hand on the symbols carved into it. This path was never made for escape. She looks at the group. It was created for protection. Only those willing to lose something important can open it. The old leader studies the gate. What must be given? The woman looks at the ancient pages. The truth cannot be protected by those who only want to survive. Silence fills the chamber. Marcus understands first. The person who opens the gate must stay behind. Everyone turns toward him. The woman slowly nods. The passage closes after it is opened. The young scout shakes his head. No. There must be another way. The old leader looks at the people around him. They have survived the soldiers, the storms, and the darkness. But now they face the hardest choice. He steps toward the gate. I have lived many years protecting this secret. The others look at him. Perhaps my final duty is to protect it one last time. The young scout's eyes fill with sadness. You cannot do this. The old leader smiles softly. Every journey has an ending. He places his hand on the stone gate. The ancient symbols begin to glow faintly. A deep sound shakes the chamber. The gate starts opening. But suddenly, a loud crash echoes behind them. The soldiers have entered the chamber. The woman looks back. They are here. The old leader turns toward the opening gate. The final path is appearing. But the enemy is only moments away. The chamber shakes as the soldiers rush inside. Their torches fill the ancient room with light. The leader of the soldiers steps forward. Stop. Everyone turns. The old leader stands beside the opening stone gate. For a moment, both sides remain silent. The soldier commander looks at the ancient pages. You have no idea what you are holding. The old leader replies calmly. I know exactly what I am protecting. The commander takes a step closer. Those records belong to the kingdom. Marcus laughs quietly. No. They belong to the truth. The soldiers raise their weapons. The old woman quickly whispers. The gate will not stay open for long. The old leader looks at the group. Go. The young scout refuses. We leave together. The old leader shakes his head. You must carry the truth beyond these mountains. The words hurt, but everyone understands. The old woman pulls the young scout toward the passage. One by one, they begin crossing through the opening gate. Marcus stops and looks back. I owe you my life. The old leader smiles. Then use it wisely. The commander moves forward. But the old leader steps between him and the passage. You searched for power. He looks at the ancient chamber. But you never understood its purpose. The gate begins to close. The last person crosses through. The old leader remains behind. The commander reaches for him, but the stone gate suddenly shakes. A powerful sound fills the chamber. The passage closes. The soldiers are trapped on one side. The survivors are safe on the other. Deep inside the mountain, the old leader stands alone. But he is not afraid. He looks at the ancient writings one final time. And whispers. Let the truth survive. On the other side of the stone gate, the group stands in complete silence. No one speaks. They all know what they have lost. The young scout places his hand against the cold stone wall. We should have stayed. The old woman looks at him sadly. His choice was not to die. She pauses. His choice was to make sure you lived. The group continues through the final passage. After hours of walking, a faint light appears ahead. This time, it is not a torch. It is the morning sun. They step out of the mountain and find themselves on the other side of the valley. The world outside is covered in snow, but for the first time in many days, they feel free. Marcus looks back at the mountain. Will anyone ever know what happened here? The old woman looks at the ancient pages. That depends on what you do next. The young scout holds the records carefully. We will tell the truth. The old woman nods. But remember, truth is not always welcomed. Far away, the soldiers search the mountain. They never discover the hidden path. They never find the records. And they never learn the full story of the people who protected the secret. Months pass. The war slowly moves away from the mountains. Villages begin rebuilding. People begin living without fear. And somewhere beyond the frozen peaks, a new story begins. A story about courage. A story about sacrifice. A story about those who walked through darkness. and carried the truth into the light.